Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Present all dignitaries here and all fellow colleagues. Welcome to my presentation. My presentation topic is exploring the sources of greenhouse gas emission in Bangladesh. Myself, Sirajul Islam, and I am doing PhD at LU in India and also working as assistant professor, Department of Economics, BUBT, Dhaka, Bangladesh. So greenhouse gases are gaseous compounds that can emit ultraviolet radiation with a certain thermal infrared range. Greenhouse gases keep hold of high temperature in the lower atmosphere, thus allowing less heat to escape from the earth. This subsequently result in the greenhouse effect and global warming. So this paper is aimed to identify the highest contributor of different greenhouse gases emissions in Bangladesh. Basically, I work with the emission of carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. So, literature review. There are many literatures. Some of them are here. First of all, Euro et al., who identified that for the high dependence of burning fossil fuels for power generation and other industrial activities, carbon dioxide is now the most emitting greenhouse gases, while tolerated gases such as CFC and SCF are least emitted greenhouse gas because the use of refrigerant has been phased out in many refrigeration systems in recent time. Sarkar et al. Found that there is an increasing trend of total energy consumption and per capita energy consumption in Bangladesh from 1991 to 2012, where the total energy consumption has been increased nearly 3 times from 12.55 million ton oil equivalent in 1991 to 33.17 million ton oil equivalent in 2012. Randall et al. Detailed that the PM10, PM2.5, and sulfur dioxide emissions are dominated by the brick kiln sector in Dhaka, and the traffic sector is the dominating emission source for nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide in Dhaka. In Chittagong, the dominating source sectors are more mixed, where PM10 emissions are primarily from the industrial sector and sulfur dioxide emissions from the brick kiln sector exclusively. Okay, this paper is basically identify by the sources of greenhouse gas emission, especially I mentioned before, the largest source of emitter of carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. So in methodology, there is no statistical tool used, but only the graphical approach has been used to show the largest source of carbon dioxide emission, methane emission, and nitrous oxide emission. So here we can see the share of different greenhouse gas emission in Bangladesh. In compared to these three greenhouse gas, major greenhouse gases like methane, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide, methane is the highest emissions. It emitted highest in Bangladesh. It is about 52% of total emission, and carbon dioxide is 31%, and nitrous oxide is 70%. Sources of greenhouse gases emission in Bangladesh. Here it can be seen that agriculture is the highest source of total greenhouse gas emission of Bangladesh. It is about 39% of total emission it produces. That means agriculture produces 39% of total greenhouse gas emission in Bangladesh. Then energy sector is the second largest emitter of greenhouse gas. Land use and forestry also produces 70%. Waste produces 10%, and industrial process produces only 2% of total greenhouse gas emission. Okay. Now, sources of carbon dioxide emission in Bangladesh. Here, industrial sector is seen that it produces highest carbon dioxide in Bangladesh is about 29%. And following that, transportation sector produces 26% of carbon dioxide. Building construction produces 25%. Solid fuel consumption 9%, and 11% produces by the other sources. Here, one thing is missing, which is energy consumption. But in case of Bangladesh, energy consumption by energy sector is now the largest contributor of carbon dioxide emission in Bangladesh, which produces 93%, 93 metric tons, sorry, 93.09 metric tons carbon dioxide, which is about 55% of total emission in Bangladesh. Bangladesh also ranked 6th in the world based on the level of coal power capacity in development. This type of carbon dioxide emission impact on local climate, cause anomalies in climate pattern, and exaggerate climate-related impacts. The reasons of high carbon dioxide emissions from the energy sector in Bangladesh. There are many reasons, but mainly due to burning of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas for power generation, or to fuel vehicle and machines are the main cause of carbon dioxide emission from the energy sector. And also cement production and glass firing as producing carbon dioxide in energy sector. Now moving to the methane and nitrous oxide emission in Bangladesh. Here it is visible that the blue line represents the methane emission from the agriculture sector, and the gray line represents methane emission from energy sector. And it is clearly seen that agriculture sector is producing much more methane than the energy sector. So again, in case of nitrous oxide emission, the agriculture sector is much higher than the energy sector. That means in case of both methane and nitrous oxide emission, agriculture contributes the most. So reasons of high emission of methane from the agriculture sector. First, we have to know that Bangladesh emission of methane were 89.8 million metric ton carbon dioxide equivalent in 2019. This places Bangladesh as the 16th worst methane emitter globally. Bangladesh agriculture methane emitted due to mainly growing rice in flooded paddies produce methane, and secondly, decomposition of livestock manure. Reasons of nitrous oxide emission from agriculture sector in Bangladesh. There are many reasons, but basically here two reasons are identified. Number one, nitrogen fertilizer or synthetic fertilizer use is the main cause of nitrous oxide emission from the agriculture sector in Bangladesh. Nitrous oxide also emitted from nitrogen lynching and runoff from agriculture soils. Okay, so this is conclusion part. So this study found that agriculture is the highest emitter of greenhouse gas in Bangladesh. The agriculture manure system, grazing system, use of chemical fertilizers and insecticides could be the main reasons for the emission. The emission from industrial and transportation and energy sector is moderate for greenhouse gas, but in case of carbon dioxide emission, energy sector contributes the most. So this emission can be reduced by improving agrarian system in Bangladesh. Like improving agrarian system means improving of manure system, proper grazing method, reducing dependency on chemical fertilizer and insecticides, or other approach can be adopted. So this is all about from my presentation. There are some references. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for a really interesting presentation. Are there any questions from the audience? If no, I may have a question because you indicated that production of rice is also a
Yes.
problem. So basically, with agriculture, it is very hard to reduce the production of methane because everyone needs food. Yeah, and we really
Yeah.
need food to survive. So, what
Yes.
would be your suggestion? What changes may be implemented to reduce this greenhouse emission from agriculture?
Okay, I have already told that proper manure system and optimal use of chemical fertilizer like nitrogen fertilizer can reduce greenhouse gas emission from agriculture. There are other approaches which has been suggested by International Rice Research Institute, AWD, alternating drying system, uh, cropping system. I just forgot that system. Bangladesh also trying to take that approach to reduce greenhouse gas emission from the agriculture sector. So improvement in the agricultural production process could reduce the greenhouse gas production. AWD method is about it's found that it can reduce 29% of greenhouse gas emission from the agriculture sector.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. I'm very